These are the things as we are delivering for a lot of us to understand. I explained this before, and it's essential that we go back on it. You have most of the homes in the world has two operational systems. The government delivers electricity to you. In your box, usually you divide it in two. But here, outside the box, government brings normally three phase. You take out on one phase into the supply. Maybe your next door neighbor is connected to the other phase and your other neighbors to the other phase. Or all the neighbors connected on one phase in one road. But when it comes to your house, you have two ways. In the house, in the box, you go into what we call load, or you go into the light. You have delivered your system, your MaGrav system, into the load side, because the fridge is a load. But fridge comes on very, very rarely. In a way, if you compare it, if you understand it, what you call your fridge comes on maybe half an hour for a few minutes every now and then you understand that this fridge, this time, creates enough time to trigger the cycle of the hertz in the system. And what it does, it goes around the house and only loads onto your load side. Your light side is not connected. Your light side, if in the country there is a, which is most of the third world nations, many of them are connected this way, you connect in the back of your thing system into the grid, and so what you see is connection between the light and the load, which then here, if you're not connected, which is most of the European nations, your 20-30% of your consumption mainly is your electric supply, but the other 70% is your lighting. If you can connect a second system, MaGrav system, to your lighting, you will see around 95 to 100% reduction. Because now you cover both. Most of you connect to one cycle. You say, I only get 30, 40, maybe 50%. And if you use your MaGrav system in the winter time, which is a load resistance and is not, in a way, comes into operation so easily because of the heat dissipation, we don't get the nano coating of the material because it already always works on the element of heating bars, or in that condition, you increase your supply demand on the load side, but you don't see any reduction. Your bill goes up and you say, I get 5 or 10%, very, very meager, because the resistive load does not come in. The new system you're developing is that we nano coat the resistive loads, that the heating is slightly different, but allows you the maximum saving. This is the development in the technology which is in progress somewhere in the background of the Keshe Foundation. So if you can connect two systems, one through your lighting and one through your load, then you see a spring, summertime, and autumn time, if you don't have a resistive load, you are 90%, 100%. And this is what we see in Africa. In Africa, why the plasma power units are so strongly powerful and they show such reduction? Because resistive load is not existing as such. If you look into air conditioning system and the rest, we use a different way of producing heat, and then in that process we get a higher reduction. So even if we talk about MaGrav system, is you have not understood the process. MaGrav system have another additional factor which sits in this box, or it sits on the interface with the government, with the house, which that interface in some of the countries allows you, instead of going through your meter, due the way they set up with the smart electricity boards, you read last year's comparison to this year, but your register amount is registered. So the next year when you come to get it, it reads the last year. So this year you were 100 watts. This year you use 10 watts. The system still registered 100 because there could be something wrong. We don't want to get it right. And then the next year, compared to this, you see a massive fall in your meterage. The smart meters create this condition. They are set up to do. The same thing is what we see. A lot of you use the MaGrav technology for the cars. In your car, you put a MaGrav system and you said, it's not that efficient. I don't see anything. You have to understand, most of the cars today are computer controlled. Anything from 2008 onwards, which is past 10 years, 2010 especially onwards, they have a microchip built in, which does not allow any fuel reduction over 20 to 25%. This allows for future development if companies become and produce fuels that become more efficient, that they can use it themselves, because the oil companies own most of the car manufacturing shareholdings. So it's to their benefit. So in your car, if it's a young car, you will not see more than 20%, because anything over 20%, again the same chip as in your electricity meter is placed, it dumps fuel into your exhaust, into more or less into your cylinder, or back in a way that allows to keep at the kilometer which is fit in for this car. So you see a much better performance with your car, but you don't see that much fuel reduction, because in fact, if you bypass, get this chip which is put in the circuitry of the fuel consumption of the car, you'll find out you go down to 50–80%. But this cannot be done. The governments don't want to change this because they earn a lot of money out of it, taxation, to do a lot of other things. So the MaGrav system, being out for 2 or 3 years, we see clearly do work. But as I said, we do not bring the MaGrav systems or the plasma power unit for the purpose of electricity or the car. It comes from it, plasma power unit. What does this mean? A lot of you followed it but never understood it. And as I said, as we are entering in the phase of space technology, plasma